Today's lesson is do your future self a favor. Become a saver. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to talk about personal finances. Of course, saving for the future, which all of you are pretty good at. And here, of course, we're giving you some advice. As a teenager or as a young person, start these habits early so that you can save money for the future. And you want to do yourself a favor in the future. It's a future self, the self of the future. You're doing yourself a favor. You're helping yourself out by becoming a saver, someone who saves money.
And wouldn't that be great? Of course, you'd have money to buy the things that you need in the future. That's a very direct result of having money. We can buy the things that we need, or clothes or food, or maybe even afford your own place to live, your own rent. And of course, there are expensive things that you might want to buy in the future, a new phone, a new bicycle, a new computer, or even a new car. And also, it's nice to have a bit of extra money in your pocket, or even better, in your bank account to pay for some fun things like travel or entertainment and stuff like that. So we're going to find out some ways that young people can think to the future. Maybe when you're not focused on money, you're still a student, you're still not making that much, but it's a good time to start. And we're going to hopefully develop some good money-saving habits that will serve you not just now, but well into your future. So let's find out all about that in our first paragraph. Do your future self a favor. Become a saver. As a teenager, you've no doubt had adults lecture you about the importance of saving money. Hearing such advice, you might have rolled your eyes. After all, you might not even have much of an income, maybe just a little money from an allowance or part-time job. However, even if you're not making tons of money yet, getting into the habit of saving now can really pay off later.
大家好，第一部分介绍动词 lecture 指训诫教训。例如 Before she went to school, Becky's mom lectured her on the importance of education. Becky 去上学之前，妈妈对她训诫了教育的重要性。或者 My parents would often lecture me about the importance of going to bed early. 我的父母经常教训我早睡的重要性。继续看到名词 allowance 表示零用钱、定期津贴。例如 When I was a child, I was given an allowance of 100 new Taiwanese dollars a week. 当我还是个小孩时，我每周会有新台币100元的零用钱。或是 Steven saved his allowance for 3 months to buy tickets for the concert. Steven 把他存了3个月的零用钱，用来买演唱会的票。再来看到形容词 part-time， 它的意思是兼职的。例如Bob is a part-time cook at his uncle's restaurant. Bob 是他叔叔餐厅的一位兼职厨师。也可以说 This student is a part-time worker, so he doesn't make much money each week. 这个学生是兼职的，所以他每周赚的钱并不多。
Okay, so here's the first paragraph for today. It begins by saying, as a teenager, or since you are a teenager now, you've no doubt had adults lecture you about the importance of saving money. So it's probably true if you're a teenager, you probably know that your parents have lectured you about the importance of saving money. Okay, so here we got the word lecture. That could be both a noun and a verb. Here it's being used as a verb. If somebody talks to you and gives you advice and they just keep talking and talking, you should do this, you should do that, etc., etc., they are lecturing you, just like a college professor would do in a lecture class at college.
Absolutely. But hopefully they're also passing on some wisdom, some advice, some important and useful stuff that you can use in the future. So yes, we've often heard lectures about the importance of saving money. Hearing such advice, you might have rolled your eyes. Okay, often when people are being told something that A, they already know, or B, they don't really put a lot of faith or have a lot of belief in, you might feel a little frustrated. Here's another good word. You might feel exasperated, kind of tired of having your parents tell you to eat your vegetables or go to bed early, or why don't you come home on Friday night and do your homework then instead of waiting till Sunday night? And when you hear something like that, advice that you've already heard and you don't really need or appreciate, you might make the action of rolling your eyes. That's, of course, sort of looking up at the ceiling in a way of expressing just through that gesture, through your face and what you're doing with your eyes. Oh, okay, I know. You've already told me this 1,000 times. It kind of just shows that you're a little bored and you're not really appreciating this advice or whatever is going on. You're tired of it all. After all, it says you might not even have much of an income, maybe just a little money from an allowance or part-time job. Well, that is very true. Young people often, they're in school. They're not working full-time, and if they are working, they're not working at a job that will bring in a lot of money, right? It's not like a professional career of some kind, so they might not even have much of an income. They might not be making that much money or have that much money to save. And here's some reasons why. Maybe you're just getting a little money from an allowance or from a part-time job. So an allowance would be money given to you often by your parents or your family, the people who take care of you, and that's the money you would carry around with you just to buy snacks, maybe go to a movie with your friends, to save up a little bit if you want to buy something like a nice gift for someone, but it's not a lot of money. What was your allowance when you were a young man, Roger?
Gee, I think it was $1 a week or something like that, but of course I'm very old. I'm like 90 years old now, so of course back then $1 was worth a lot. I'm kidding, of course. I think it was a little higher than that.
I think mine was about $20.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I used to give my daughter 1,000 NT a month.
I was guessing that might be standard.
It's a good standard sort of amount to give your kid, especially since she did not have a job at the time. So it's a way to teach her some financial responsibility. Don't spend it all in one place. Save it for a rainy day. So that's an allowance. Or if you're in your teens, you might have a part-time job, which means you don't work 40 hours a week, maybe 15 or 20 hours at a convenience store or at a coffee shop or wherever. But yeah, that would be a part-time job that mostly young people have.
Absolutely. Mine was at Kentucky Fried Chicken after school and on the weekends. And yeah, it was about 20 hours a week. So that was a bit more money than you'd get from an allowance, unless your parents are very rich and generous. But still, this isn't huge amounts of money. However, it says even if you're not making tons of money yet, getting into the habit of saving now can really pay off. So yes, maybe money issues and saving money, it's not a big concern for young people for the reasons we just explained. But, or however, even if you're not making tons, and we use tons, which is of course 1,000 kilograms, a very heavy weight, we use it often in other ways to say a lot of. There was tons of food at the wedding banquet, or tons of people showed up at the concert for the free show or something. Just really large amounts. So if you're not making large amounts of money, getting into the habit of, or developing the habit of, learning how to do this and having it become a regular part of your life, which of course is a habit, in this case a good habit. So developing that habit to save can really pay off later, can really benefit you later, in the same way that if you invest money in a company right at the beginning and then the company becomes very successful, it pays off in the end. It gives you much more money than you put in. So it is a good investment. It's a good thing to do that will have positive impact on your future. And we're going to find out why in our next paragraph. Why? Because as an adult, having a financial safety net is incredibly beneficial. Life doesn't always go as planned. You might get sick, need to take time off work, or even want to go on a big trip someday. Having money set aside helps you handle surprises without any added stress.
第二部分介绍形容词 financial 表示财务的、金融的，可以说 Carl received financial aid to help cover his tuition fees. Carl 接受了经济援助来帮助支付他的学费。又或者说 Financial experts are predicting a downturn in the stock market. 财经专家预测股市将出现下滑。后面看到 incredibly 这个单字，它是副词，意思是极其难以置信的。例如 The movie was incredibly exciting from start to finish. 这部电影从头到尾都极其刺激。另一句 What you did was incredibly brave. 你所做的事极其勇敢。接着介绍形容词 beneficial， 指的是有利的、有益的。举例来说 Fruits and vegetables are beneficial to your health. 水果和蔬菜对你的健康有益。又或者说 Simon found that eating more vegetables was beneficial to his overall health. Simon 发现多吃蔬菜有助于他的整体健康。
Okay, so we're asking the question, why? Why do you want to save money, or why do you want to have this habit? Why do you want to get into the habit of saving now to prepare for the future? Because as an adult, having a financial safety net is incredibly beneficial. So when you are an adult, when you're beyond the age of 18 or 19 or 20 or whatever, and you're on your own, it's important to have a financial safety net. Now, financial has to do with finances, getting money to pay for things and things like that, saving money, using it to buy things or to invest in things. So yes, you need to have a financial safety net, which means you have enough money to prepare for disasters in the future. If you suddenly need to get an operation or something like that, or your brother or your father needs to borrow some money from you, you can have this money to lend them. Hopefully they'll pay you back. But yes, you want to have this financial safety net. You just want to have some money tucked away in case of an emergency, and it's incredibly beneficial. If something's incredible, it's hard to believe, but incredibly makes it an adverb, which means it's extremely beneficial. Beneficial means it's good for you.
There you go. It will definitely help you out. Life doesn't always go as planned. Well, that's exactly what Roger was explaining there about a safety net, because yes, life doesn't always go as planned. We have problems in our lives, troubles come up, and sometimes we need extra money to do something, like your bicycle or your car gets stolen and you need that to go to work. Well, you can't just wait another year and save money. You might have to go out the next day and buy a new bike or a new car. And of course, having that safety net, having that extra amount of cash saved up in the bank or wherever, often we say saved for a rainy day, for a day when things go wrong, that is a very wise thing to do. And it will be helpful at times when you really need it, because as it says, life doesn't always go as planned. Sometimes life throws us some curveballs, it throws us some little disasters, some little problems, and having a bit of extra money is always helpful. You might get sick, need to take time off work, or even want to go on a big trip someday. So there you go. Some good things and bad things that might happen in your life, that many of them might require extra money. You get sick, maybe you need to pay for that operation, as Roger said, or maybe you just can't work for a few months, right? Maybe you just have to quit your job to take care of your health, and you won't be making much. Well, you'll still need money, and maybe it's in the bank, which is good. Or you need to take time off work. Maybe someone in your family gets sick. Maybe you want to travel to another country and learn about life there or something like that. So sometimes you might have to stop working, and again, your income will go down. Or maybe you just want the extra money for something fun, like a big trip tomorrow. Your best friend calls up and says, I'm getting married in Tahiti, and I want you to be my maid of honor, my best man. Well, now you're going to have to buy an airplane ticket to Tahiti, which will cost a lot of money.
It will. That's kind of an obscure destination, so I'm sure the tickets for that place are quite expensive.
I looked into it once because my friend said that, and I had a heart attack.
Oh, really? Okay. I imagine it would be quite expensive to go there.
He didn't get married in Tahiti, and I was very grateful.
Oh, okay, good. He probably got married in Tokyo or somewhere where the tickets are much cheaper. But in any case, yes, indeed, these are things you might do in the future. So you want to have a little nest egg, some extra money saved away or tucked away in case, maybe your mother gets sick and you need to spend some time with her in the hospital or whatever. You need to take time off work, go on a big trip, or buy something expensive that you need, and having money set aside helps you handle surprises without any added stress. So you want to have some money saved or set aside. You need to have it reserved somewhere in a savings account or something like that, just in case something happens, and then you have that money to use. If you don't have that money, my goodness, you could be in big trouble. You might have to borrow money from a relative or friends, and no one wants to borrow money from somebody they know. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Here comes the third and final part.
Luckily, saving money isn't as hard as you might think. Just a few simple steps can get you started. The first is to open a savings account at your bank. Keeping your saved money separate from your day-to-day money means you're less tempted to spend it. The best part, though? Savings accounts earn interest, which means the bank adds a little extra money to your account each year, helping your savings grow even more.
第 3部分看到形容词 day to day 表示日常的、例行的。例如 Ian managed the day-to-day affairs of the business while the CEO was ill. 执行长生病时 Ian 负责处理商务的日常事务。也可以说 The engineer was in charge of day-to-day maintenance at the theme park. 该工程师负责那座主题乐园日常的维修。最后看到 tempt 这个单字，它是动词，表示吸引、引诱、诱惑。我们可以说 Anna was tempted to consider a career change by the attractive job offer from a rival company. Anna 被对手公司吸引人的工作机会打动，考虑职涯转换。最后一个例子 The smell of the freshly baked cookies tempted Darlene to abandon her diet. 新鲜出炉的饼干香味又使 Darlene 放弃节食。
All right, we are back. So let's find out how we can get into the good habit of saving money for that rainy day. It says, luckily, saving money isn't as hard as you might think. So there you go. That's good news when you're starting on something new, something you've never done before, and something that you might have to develop the habit of doing. It's nice to know that it's not as hard as you might think. So this won't be as difficult as we might imagine. No more excuses. Just a few simple steps can get you started. Great. Well, what are they? The first is to open a savings account at your bank. I think that's pretty much what we would call a no-brainer in English. That's a pretty obvious thing. Okay, yeah. Open a savings account in your bank. I mean, you can put your money in a shoebox under your bed or hide it under your mattress or keep it in the freezer behind the ice cream, but that's not the safest place. And of course, the money won't be growing or won't be doing anything for you as it's hidden in your house. So the first thing you should do is put your money in a bank, and for that you will need a savings account. How old were you when you got your first savings account? I think I was around 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, that early?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't have a savings account until I was in high school when I had my first part-time job at my dad's gas station.
There you go.
I think I had both a savings account and a checking account.
Look at you. Fancy kid.
Yeah, we had checkbooks. You could write checks to pay for things. That gives you a good credit rating. If you write those checks, maybe you don't really need to. I don't really see checks so often here in Taiwan. I've seen them given by companies to pay for things, but people don't really have personal checks. Everybody uses credit cards and things like that.
But that's
now.
a good point. If you do get checks, you can't really do much with them without a savings account these days.
True. I think they still offer checking accounts. But yeah, you should open a savings account at your local bank. And keeping your saved money separate from your day-to-day money means you're less tempted to spend it. So yeah, if you put the money someplace else besides in your pocket, you probably won't spend it as easily as you would with the money in the bank. Okay, so yeah, put the money in the bank so you're not tempted to spend that money. This is your day-to-day money we're talking about. Day-to-day just means money you need for everyday expenses like food or transportation, stuff like that. If you have some money tucked away in the bank, then you'll be less likely to touch that money.
That is great. The best part, though, so what is the best part of this, of keeping some of your money locked away in that bank where you won't be tempted to spend it? What's the best part? Savings accounts earn interest, which means the bank adds a little extra money to your account each year, helping your savings grow even more. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant by having your money locked away in your home doesn't really have the money working for you. It's not earning interest, which is what, of course, it earns in a bank. Now, this would be a very small amount of money, 1-2% or something like that, if that, but that is interest. So it's basically as you leave your money, it kind of grows because the bank can use that money to do other things. And so, yes, your money will earn a little bit of extra money. Obviously, it's not as much as if you bought a stock that became very successful or invested in a bank or something like that. But hey, it is a small amount, and over the years, it does add up. So that's another nice thing about having your money nice and safe there in your savings account at your local bank.
Indeed. So, of course, you have interest. And just as an example, I think I started a bank account in the local post office many years ago, maybe 20 years ago or so. And then I got accounts in different banks. So the money in my post office account just kind of sits there. I don't really ever use it because I lost the card and I'm too lazy to get a new one.
Okay.
And they make you go to the original bank, which was up in Shipai, and I don't live there anymore. It's kind of far. So I just kind of let that money sit there. But it does get interest every year. I think they pay interest at the end of the year. So it's a little extra money which I don't really use because, again, I don't have the card to get at that money, although I guess I could use my passbook or whatever.
You could.
But in any case, yeah, that's interest, little extra money they give you. And then they also have something called compound interest, which means they add the interest on top of the amount after the previous interest was added to it. So it just keeps building after that. But I guess you probably can't really make a lot of money from interest in the bank. It is some money. Of course, it's nice to have that. But I think the real money comes from investing in the stock market or other places like that.
Absolutely. And we're going to learn more about saving money with all sorts of great, healthy, and helpful financial health tips in tomorrow's article. So come back and join us for that. But now, let's go over to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始提到，身为青少年，你无疑听过大人告诫你储蓄的重要性。那听到这样的建议，你也许早就翻白眼，毕竟你可能根本没有多少收入。好，文中他用到 after all 来表达毕竟的语义。我们这边来整理 after all 的两种用法。第一个，它可以用来说明理由或者是提出解释，相当于中文的毕竟。例如I think you should apologize to her. After all, she's your best friend. 我认为你应该向她道歉，毕竟她是你最要好的朋友。好，那第二个用法是用来表达结果跟先前的认知不同，相当于中文的终究还是怎么样怎么样。像是 He said he had reconsidered and decided to quit after all. 他说他重新考虑了，那终究还是决定辞职。好，课文接着写到说，然而即使你还没有赚很多钱，现在养成储蓄的习惯，将来确实会有回报。文中用到 even if 来表达即使点点点的语义。那我们这边来比较一下 even if 跟 even though 的用法。even if 表示即使就算，那它是 if 的强调说法，用来引导条件或假设的情况，强调说无论情况是否成立，都不会影响到结果。例如 You should wear sunscreen even if it's cloudy outside. 即使外面是多云的天气，你还是得擦防晒。那再看到 even though 它表示即使虽然尽管，它是 although 或是 though 的强调说法，用来引导确定的情况或者是已发生的事实，强调虽然某情况成立，但还是有某种结果发生。例如 The outdoor concert went pretty well even though it rained. 虽然下雨，那场户外音乐会还是进行得很顺利。好，另外文中他用到 pay off 来表达有回报。pay off 做及物用，它表示得到好的成果，取得成功，可以用来表达所做的事情有了回报，终于获得成功。例如 All of their hard work has finally paid off. 他们所有的努力终于获得回报。那补充一下哦， pay off 当及物用的时候，它则是有清偿偿还的意思。我们可以用 pay something off 或者是 pay off something 来表达。例如 It took them 30 years to pay off their mortgage. 他们花了30年把房贷还清。好，那如果 pay off 的受词是人， pay somebody off 或者是 pay off somebody 则可以表达收买某人的意思。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Lecture. Robin's parents often lecture her about staying out too late on weekends. Allowance. Zach told me that he spends most of his allowance on snacks and video games. Financial. Thanks to her job, Charlene was able to give her parents some financial support when their business failed. Incredibly. Alonzo is incredibly talented at playing both piano and guitar. Beneficial. Professor Rowe said it would be beneficial to review the material before the test. Tempt. I was tempted to buy the shoes, even though they were quite expensive.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.